Hello and welcome once again into our off-season hot stove presentation, Countdown to Opening Day. I'm Pat Malacaro, the voice of the Bisons, here to get you set for the start of the 2023 season, not only in Scranton-Wilkes-Barre on March the 31st, but right here in downtown Buffalo on April the 4th when the Bisons open up their home schedule against the Worcester Red Sox. There's a lot of names and faces that Bison fans will be familiar with that will take the field for Buffalo this season. A familiar face managing the club as well in Casey Candell. Looking forward to catching up with him throughout the course of the season. But here in the offseason hot stove, we want to bring you a lot of the storylines to get you set for the start of this new campaign. One of the people we do that with this week is Joe Sclafani, the Director of Player Development for the Toronto Blue Jays, and somebody who has seen a lot of these prospects who we'll see in Buffalo this year come through the organization and helping their progress along the way. And I had a chance to catch up with Joe as he's down in Dunedin right now, helping the team get set for 2023, and want to get his thoughts on the upcoming year. Joe, thanks for taking some time to join us today. I know at this time last year, we were talking about the minor league side really ramping things up. And how has this kind of normal-ish, I want to say, off-season to have players being working with on the major league side, playing in spring training games already, how has kind of this spring training maybe helped some of the minor league players getting ready for minor league camp?
Yeah, so it's been awesome. I mean, this really is the first normal year, if you will, that we've had since this building has been opened. The part of the purpose of building this place was to get guys that want to be down here and spend time at the PDC in the off season, mix of minor leaguers, big leaguers. That's been happening. We had a ton of guys come early on their own, and then we brought in about 80 players for early camp, which started at the end of January. And I mean, you've seen the reports. A ton of the big league guys showed up early. I mean, they were pretty much at full go for 2 weeks prior, probably, to their official first squad date. So it's been really neat. Staff came down early as well. So the experience for these guys, the minor leaguers, to be around the big league guys and all of them, speaks to their character, are always open to have conversations. I mean, early on, Kiermaier went out of his way to talk to our outfield group, and, Springer's talked to them as well. And just the organic conversations that happen when they run into each other in the building, it's been pretty neat to see.
It's one thing for coaches, and we know what Devon White has been able to do with many players in their development, but what does it mean to have the players like Kevin Kiermaier or whoever it might be to kind of lend their expertise and that information sharing?
Yeah, it's outstanding. I mean, you can't really quantify just what type of impact it has. But the fact, it just speaks to who they are. They're so passionate about what they do. They want to give back. They know that the guys in the minor leagues are the ones that are going to be called upon to step up and help them win games in the big leagues. So they willingly offer that up, and the minor league guys on our side have just been soaking it up and taking the lessons and advice that was given to them and just running with it. And we're fired up to see that. And then it leads to better follow-up conversations with our staff. And there's just a ton of good things that happen from it.
I know winning at every level is a high importance in the Blue Jays organization. And for the parent club, to make the playoffs last year, the expectations continue to build with some of the offseason acquisitions. What does it maybe say to the younger players that come into this culture now of wanting to win, wanting to be part of this, and then see what it takes to put out a winning team and be a winner on the field?
Yeah, it's awesome for them to be here and witness it. I mean, there's been revamped emphases on no little things or do all the small things, and those are the things you need to do when you're trying to figure out how to get into the playoffs, number one, and then hopefully make a deep run. There are no small things, and just our guys that have gotten a chance to go over to the big league camp games, hearing it from Schneids and the big league staff up there as well, it just reinforces kind of how important that is for them to build that foundation in the minor leagues. And if we're doing things appropriately, they're learning as they go. And hopefully they put themselves, hopefully our minor league teams are winning as well, so that they're in those scenarios with the pressure pack situations. And it won't be the first time when they're trying to do it in front of 45,000 people.
And as we kind of look at the schedule for AAA baseball, I was talking to someone recently, and they were kind of asking, why does the minor league season in AAA go almost as long as the big leagues? And a lot of it is to keep players fresh and ready. But also, I think the benefit is some of the players that we saw debut in Buffalo last year got a chance to have AAA experience. How much emphasis is placed on some of the younger players
Addison Barger, Trevor Schwecke. On the pitching side of things, there were a couple that came up at the end of the year to kind of get a taste of AAA and build into the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing with the schedule is it's great because otherwise we'd have to bring them down to the PDC and try to do simulations and live BPs or whatever. It's never the same. And then God forbid there's an injury or something, and that they step in a playoff run. It's a pretty challenging task to do. So I think that makes sense. Then, like you mentioned, there's the added benefit of allowing us to get some younger guys a little bit of a taste of what it is to be at that level, be around some of the older guys that have maybe bounced in between the big leagues and AAA all season, and just getting that taste, seeing what it's like, helps prepare them going into that off season. Hopefully, gives them a little bit of hunger with the way they're going about their business. And if it leads to a big league camp invite the next year, they've been there, they've been around a lot of those guys. It helps with familiar faces. There's a ton of benefit to it.
And every year there are players that kind of springboard the end of their season into spring training the next year. And one of those I mentioned is Addison Barger. It seems like he performed so well in Buffalo at the end of last year. What are some of the maybe conversations on just an overall perspective of the things to do in the offseason and then being added to the 40-man roster, the expectations coming into that next year's spring training?
For Addy specifically, I mean, kudos to him on last year. It started with the work he did the prior offseason. He was really determined and intentful with his work all offseason. He showed up in great shape. He hit the ground running, had a good spring. And then you saw he had an outstanding offensive season. But it's that maturity, knowing what he needs, the routines, all of those types of things to get him prepared to be able to contribute at that big league level. In terms of the process, it's pretty much the same for all of these guys. We meet with them in an individual player meeting, 170 of them or whatever it is, but we reflect a little bit. We ask them to reflect a little bit on the prior year. What did you learn? What stood out to you? What can you take with you going into the next season? What are the most important things we need to focus on this year? We bring our opinion, we ask them what theirs is, and then we walk away from those meetings with the agreed upon goals. What's going to be important? How can you show up and put yourself in a position to help the big league club win for the guys that are at the higher levels, obviously. And then the staff gets those, and that's how we come up with our action plans and the work that we're going to be doing daily throughout the year.
And I feel like a lot of the players that contributed coming up from AA last year will be such an important part of this Bison's roster this year. What can you maybe share right now as minor league camp gets underway of the maybe expectation of what the Bison's roster might look like in terms of the mix of veterans and some of those players? A guy like Spencer Horwitz, I think of as an example, who performed so well from the second half of the year on and really made his mark in AAA.
I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty exciting product to put off field. The names that you mentioned, obviously the younger internal guys who've advanced through the levels, have gone there, have earned the right to be there. It's going to be an exciting infield. You got Spencer, Vinny Capra will be back, Barge, Otto, Lantigua, Timo, LJ, Nathan Lucas, Schneider. Obviously, hopefully those guys are in the big leagues contributing on that level. But it's a pretty good group on that front. And then we got some exciting pitchers as well. But where we're at in the big leagues and whatnot, you're kind of in a spot where you can go out and get some of that major league depth that has proven it at the highest level before. They're hungry for the opportunity to compete and contribute to a winning team. The vast experience that they have can have an impact on our guys. They ask a lot of questions, and how do you go about things? Whatever little things they can pick from one another that might help them in their career. There's a ton of benefit to it. And everybody's in it for the right reasons. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody wants to contribute to the big league team winning, and hopefully it'll just it'll be contagious and roll from there.
And as you talk about having players ready to step into roles from AAA to the big leagues, pitching is always so important. We saw last year how a pitcher can go up to the big leagues and help out. Is that why some of the veterans signed this past offseason kind of provide that quote unquote insurance? Because we always know there's going to be a need. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Yep. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, you can never have too many good players. It's a great problem to have. Those guys, hopefully you get through an entire season without any injuries, but it's probably unlikely to be able to do that, or you're very fortunate to be able to do so. So having a ton of guys who can step up in those moments without skipping a beat and help the big league team win, it's only going to benefit you throughout the course of a long season, because we know how grueling it can be.
I think of someone like Casey Lawrence as a great example. You and I talked about him at this time last year of what it meant in his second season back in the Blue Jays organization. Could you even have imagined the role that he kind of played last year in going back to the big leagues and eating as many innings in such important roles as he did throughout the year?
Yeah, I mean, last year was a tremendous season for Casey. He's, first and foremost, he's an outstanding human being. He's a pleasure to have around the clubhouse and around some of the younger guys. He always wants to give back, but he's smart and hungry, and it is always asking for, what do you guys see? What can I pick up? And he's constantly trying to refine his approach. So he just kind of took advantage of those things, went out, executed the hell out of it every time he was called upon. Put himself in a spot where, when we did have that need, he was definitely the guy for that specific scenario, and went up there and did what he needed to do. The big league staff, the way he goes about his business, just who he is as a person, they loved him. So when other opportunities came up, it was pretty easy to get him back in there. But we're thrilled to have him back. We know he deservedly had a ton of opportunities elsewhere this offseason, but we're definitely lucky to have him.
And is that something where with the wealth of young pitching prospects that may start the year at AA, may end up in Buffalo at some point this year, it's nice to have someone like Casey who not only can perform well on the field, but can take that leadership role off it and help lead by example?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such an asset to have in there. And it's not something that he looks at as an added responsibility. He just does it naturally. Again, and it's just because he's just an outstanding human. But he's been around and he's seen a ton of things. He's got a really interesting story. He can share a lot of that experiential knowledge, and hopefully can help some of those young guys refine what they need to do as they're getting, started with their careers.
I know one pitcher that Bison fans are excited to see more of this year is Ricky Tiedemann. Kind of burst out of the scene last year in spring training, and all eyes have been on him ever since. Can you take fans through that may not have followed his season last year, kind of what his season looked like, and even though he did get a taste of AA, kind of how he was worked into AA pitching by the end of last year?
So Ricky's somebody that we were extremely excited about coming out of the draft. Amateur staff did a great job in doing their research, and we were thrilled to be able to get him. He had never, in the previous few years, he just hadn't had a huge workload. COVID impacted that. He bounced around a little bit. He never had more than like 40, 45 innings. So we wanted to take it slow. We wanted to be smart as we got to know him. And credit to Ricky, like he was all in from the start. We thought there was lots of opportunities on the physical side. He put in that work. We saw an immediate uptick in stuff in the FDL, and then he killed in the offseason, showed up in great shape, just kept building on that great foundation. And the plan was, a successful year for him last year was get him through September, basically get his body used to pitching for an entire minor league season. We had to be thoughtful about the way that we're going to roll that out so that he was going to be able to do that without throwing too much workload on him early. And, Ricky was sat at the table, was a part of that conversation. We kind of mapped out how we were seeing it. We showed him all the inputs and markers of what we're going to be looking at to make sure that we were comfortable with him continuing. And he checked every box along the way. So we started him off in Dunedin. He dominated there. His routines were in a really good place. He's a good teammate. He checked all the intangible pieces. So we pushed him to Vancouver. It was more of the same up there. And then we had a bit of we put him on the development list and gave him a little bit of a break after the Futures game. And then we sent him to New Hampshire, and he earned every step of that way. He earned it not just with his performance, but with the way he went about his business. And he was able to get, 10, 11 innings at the end of the year in August, September in New Hampshire, and really established a good foundation to build off of this year.
And another pitcher who maybe had something to build off of after so many injuries after signing with the Blue Jays as a free agent is Yosver Zulueta. We saw in a small sample at the end of the year kind of the stuff that he can bring. I guess the excitement to have him healthy, ready to go this year, and how he can take the next step.
Yeah, I mean, kind of more of the same with Zulu. He had some unfortunate luck, but he hadn't really. Everyone kind of forgets he hadn't really pitched in 3 years. We knew he had the UCL thing when we signed him, so he was going to get the Tommy John surgery, and then he was rehabbing all the way back from that. Then 3 pitches into the 2021 season, and he tears his ACL. So just really unfortunate, and it for a kid that is so easy to root for and does everything the right way, it was kind of heartbreaking. But to his credit, he showed up and rehabbed all the way back through that. So we were excited for him to come back out last year and have somewhat of a normal year. The goal again was to get him to pitch throughout the whole season. We were gonna be thoughtful about the way that we rolled him out to help protect him as well. But man, when he's out there, it's electric stuff. It's just effortless, super easy velocity. When the breaking balls are hitting, it looks really good. So it was no surprise that he was able to move up the ladder throughout the year. And we're really excited about him as he gets a little bit more consistency, just being able to pitch. He just hasn't done that much of that in the last 3-4 years. So we're pumped for him for this year.
As we talk about the pitching side of things for the Bisons this year, there'll be a change on the coaching staff. We're so thrilled that Jeff Ware has this new opportunity in the big leagues, and that presents an opportunity for somebody new to the organization in Tim Norton. How have you seen this new coaching staff and Matt Haig, who was a former MVP with the Bisons in the past? How have you seen them kind of grow maybe in their time working together with Casey Candell and Dunedin?
So, I think first of all, it starts with Casey. He set such an incredible environment at that level. It can be challenging, guys going up and down, and it can be challenging throughout the year. You have to balance a lot of different personalities, guys in different stages of their careers. So it starts with Casey. We're thrilled to have him there leading the helm. But yeah, it'll be interesting. There's definitely always going to be some type of adjustment process. But we're really confident in the people. Number one, Matt did a great job last year in Double-A with a lot of the guys that he's going to have this year. So that familiarity is going to help him kind of get off to a good start. And then obviously Jake McGuigan's back, and he's been a rock there. And Tim, tough situation to be thrown into in February. Hey man, congratulations, spring training. If you can get down here in 3 days, we're going to get you going. So he's been on the big league side for the majority. He's bounced around to the minor league side. It's one benefit of us being in the same building. But, a lot of the pitchers that he's going to have is going to be up there. So he's working with Casey, getting to be around Haig, Jake, et cetera. So it's hitting the ground running, and it's certainly fast-paced, but have a lot of confidence in Casey's leadership and just the overall quality of people and coaches that we're sending there.
We're looking forward to seeing Casey and the rest of the crew and seeing you here in Buffalo this year. Joe, thanks for taking some time to help set the stage for what will be a fun 2023 season, and looking forward to seeing you in Buffalo.
Always, Pat. Thanks for having me, and excited for the season at Buffalo. We'll see you soon.
Thanks again to Joe for taking the time to help set up the 2023 season here in our countdown to opening day, presented by Alexandra's Pierogi. Alexandra's Homestyle Pierogi is at their new stand in section 100 behind home plate. Be sure to try them here at Salem Field this year. Coming up in future episodes, we'll check in with Shai Davidi from Sportsnet and get his thoughts on the Toronto Blue Jays 2023 season, and also catch up with the general manager of the Buffalo Bisons, Anthony Sprague, to get you some of the promotions that'll be here at Salem Field this year. Get you ready for the home slate this coming season. I'm Pat Malacaro, looking forward to catching up with you next time here in the Off-Season Hot Stove.